was your dress?
Time is a second to last.
That's right. Yep, I got it. You got the bun and the color and the
Lacey, what happened?
all around.
You're on the opposite side.
I love your dress. You were the belle of the ball at that prom. She stole the show. And the pictures
Yeah, I was there.
hot was just the most stunning.
She mingled against with the crowd.
Good evening and welcome to the Fredonia Central School District Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. We start every meeting with a pledge of allegiance to our flag. Charles Domenico, come on up. Right over here.
Wow, Charles.
I know he can do it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You get a candy bar out of this. What do you get? Snickers.
We only do the good stuff. So this is where board meetings get difficult. We lost a student since our last meeting, and it's tough for the district. It's tough for our school, high school. I know, and the board feels the pain. It's tough for them. But if everyone would, we would just like a moment of silence for Jessie Sinclair. She was a class of 2023 grad, but she was still taking classes. So if we could have a moment of silence for Jessica. Thank you. So we have a proposed agenda for tonight's meeting with the consent portion that will be approved once we approve the agenda. If I could have a motion to accept the agenda. Ms. Gallo, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Paul, thank you. Any questions on any of that? Okay, thank you. So we get right into our public session. We have reserved this time to hear comments from the audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual or group. Is there anyone who would like to address the board tonight? Yes, we've got a microphone.
It pertains to the athletic facility. Should that be now or later?
We've got a microphone. Just go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
Your name and address,
Sure.
please.
Ed Schranz, 205 Lambert Avenue. I was in last year when we began the discussion about possibly putting in an athletic facility behind the school, a turf complex. And in the paper the other day, I saw that there was another speaker, and they were discussing alternative options to the Grand Island model that I proposed. And I just wanted to make you aware of a couple of things for the, I believe he mentioned the Medina and Cheektowaga Athletic Complex. If you want, you can pass these around. With both of those schools, I just wanted to let you know that the footprint's fairly small. The baseball and softball fields butt up against each other, and it's so compact that you can't play 2 games at the same time like you can on the Grand Island field. I have the Grand Island complex on the flip side of that to refer to. So I just wanted to point that out. The other thing is that if you notice the Medina and Cheektowaga complex, there's only one football/soccer field. Whereas with the Grand Island complex, in the outfields of the two baseball and softball fields, there's another imprint of a full regulation football field there. So, you know, you can practice on one, have a game on the other. So, you know, when I read the article and the speaker mentioned that the Grand Island complex doesn't have everything that we need as opposed to the other two, when I looked up the other two, you know, when I looked up there on Google Maps and looked at their website at the school, I was a little, you know, confused by that statement. So, and then one other comment was that, you know, the football field has the worst, you know, it's the worst field in the district. You know, the football field's bad, the baseball field's bad, the softball field's bad, the soccer field is bad. They're all bad. So I don't think there's any ranking that needs to go on, but I do believe that the new complex needs to be built back there, and I just wanted to point that out to you so that when we come to make a decision as to, if we make a decision, hopefully, that we're, you know, well informed by, you know, what kind of footprint there's going to be back there. And one more thing, just with respect to playing games at the same time, the whole purpose to add turf is so that you can hopefully get games in, even if the weather's a little bit, you know, not conducive for a game. So just a, you know, a possibility. Let's say baseball has a game at 5 p.m. and softball has a game on the road at 5 p.m. Well, let's say that road game, that school has a grass field and it's not playable. Usually what you can do is say, hey, why don't you come to our field? We have turf. We can play it. If both teams are scheduled at the same time, that's not a possibility with the smaller complex that was talked about at the other meeting. So I just wanted to point that out so that you could compare what I propose. And by the way, it doesn't have to be Grand Island's, you know, model. It could be a different model, but just so that all teams can play simultaneously. And I just think that the Grand Island complex serves our needs a little better than the other two that were brought up at the last meeting. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Franz?
Yes.
We have had workshops.
Okay.
I don't want this to be interactive, but
Sure.
just so you're aware, we've had workshops where the public is invited to
Oh.
those, where we're discussing these.
Okay.
And the picture that you saw in the paper was an actual workshop. So you can bring your concerns to those. You know, I don't have a problem with people talking at public session, but that's where the work is getting done. And do we have a schedule for the next one, the Young and White?
We're going to talk about that during the superintendent's report. It looks like it might be the 12th.
Okay. I read the paper online, and I don't know if I saw the picture of a proposal for the, you talking about, there's a picture for?
There was not.
Oh, okay.
There wasn't anything definite. I mean, we've got several different options. But
No, I was just
again,
referring to.
I don't want to get into a
Yeah.
back and forth, but you're more than welcome to
Right.
show up to those workshops.
I know, I was just referring to the other two complexes that the previous speaker, just to compare the two. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board tonight? Okay, thank you. So we have the approval of minutes from our regular meeting of May 21st. If we could have a motion to approve the regular meeting. Ms. Paul Fortner, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So we ran into an issue at the last meeting.
Sorry, did I miss, did we have to approve the agenda?
We did not vote.
But you were on a roll, I didn't want to interrupt.
Really? Oh, you got to interrupt. Okay.
I didn't.
Mr. Johnston,
I interrupted.
thank you. I thought that we did. I apologize. So yeah, I guess we've had two motions on the floor at the same time, which is a bad thing. But I guess if we can go back and any concerns on the agenda and consent along with that.
Just the date? It was mentioned June 6th.
That's, we sent the revised ones out to us today.
Correct. So the copy that you received
Yes.
in yesterday,
Well, this was
the hard copy.
This was the copy that was sent out.
It's fixed at the top, just not, for the
Oh, the motion?
Okay.
I see, thank you.
So
Mr. Hawk.
that should be 4.
So down below. Sorry, there's just some housekeeping here. In item number 2A, that should be June 4th, and then in the motion down below, also June 4th. Thank you for catching that again, Mr. Hawk. So with that correction, is that all? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We will move on then. We have approved the minutes of the regular meeting for May 21st. Mr. Hawk pointed out at the last meeting that we really had a mistake in the agenda in that we were approving a meeting that had not been, that had not ended yet, and that was the district meeting and the vote. So at that time, at the last meeting, we tabled that motion. And what I'm asking today is that we pull that off the table, we will correct the motion, and then we will vote on it. Okay? And so, if I could have a motion to pull that tabled motion off the table.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. And a second.
Second.
Mr. Johnston. Okay, so we have that on the table. I'm asking for a motion to correct that motion. And I believe, Ms. Alforton, you made that motion, and I think, Mr. Hawk, you seconded it. If you're okay, we're going to amend that motion so that it is not as of the 21st, but it is as of today, that we would make that motion and we would accept those minutes. Because we can't accept the minutes for a meeting that's still in process, which that was.
Yes.
You're okay?
Yes.
Mr. Hawk, you're okay? Any questions? And I apologize for the confusion here, but we probably, the notes were fuzzy, but I remember tabling that, and we should have withdrawn that. And that was also part of the notes, but I'm certain that we tabled it.
Yes.
So, okay. Any other questions? Everybody's clear on this. So we're approving the budget, the annual district meeting and vote, budget vote.
Yes.
Okay? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So now we have a special presentation, and we have spectator recognition. Now this is kind of a ho-hum for us, but yet, and that's not, it's a great thing. And I know that for the students, this is a big thing because they don't remember the past 10 years that the spectator has gotten this, 10, 20 years? I don't know. How long has it been, Ms. Reinhardt?
I mean, we've been winning awards since 1981, but, so, when I was in high school.
But for the students
For the
who are
students,
involved, this is a big thing. This is a
yes,
great thing.
yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, so it's,
Yeah, no, I just wanted to share, we're excited to have everybody here. Ms. Reinhardt, Ms. Sedota, Mr. Paschke a little bit later on. Start with a celebration and some good news about spectators into our journalism classes, then moving into our high school schedule and into our high school cell phone procedures and protocols. So it's a night of high school information.
so first I want to introduce Owen Darrell Sturbeck, co-editor-in-chief, is here. And we have Ray Dye, and I believe you're managing editor. Yeah. And then we have Isaac Williams, also a co-editor-in-chief, and Mrs. Sedota, the co-advisor. So, I have a slideshow. Do I just click now?
Well, theoretically.
Okay, so I created a little slideshow because that does just kind of take us through. You can just kind of see quickly all the awards they received and some of the judges' comments. And then I'm going to have the students, if they want to say a little something, and then I'll wrap it up with a little bit about the journalism program. And of course, if Mrs. Soda wants to add anything, I know she'll chime in. So
I'll say something right now. This is the 5th time that we are named the best newspaper in the state of New York, which is kind of a big deal. So 5 times, and we're hoping maybe 5 more.
So up there is the judging commentary, so I kind of pulled some of the comments just so you can see, so that was just the overall, and assuming I can make this clip, oh, there you go. So the Spectator editors, some of whom are here, we were able to attend the New York Press Association conference at the Gideon Putnam Hotel on April 26th and 27th. And so they attended with myself and Mr. Paschke. And of course, they accepted the Best Newspaper Award, along with 10 additional awards for design, general excellence, photography, column news, and sports writing. So that was pretty exciting. So that's them in front of the Gideon Putnam. And then there's some pictures. It was kind of cool because I wanted you guys to see how they put it up there, like at the ceremony. They were like right in the front, and all of these, newspaper reporters, writers, editors were all there, basically, all clapping for themselves, kind of cool. But so they were able to, be honored and recognized. I thought it was neat the way they had everything up there on the screen. And then we had our nice little dinner, and everyone looked happy because we were. So the first place was for general excellence in design, so I pulled some of the covers for those issues. And then Isaac Williams, who was here today, received first and third place for best photography. And so again, the judge talked about how he knows how to captivate readers and grab their attention, and his pictures are always amazing, and there's so many to enter. It's always hard to actually choose. So Isaac's right over here. And then Emma Punny's not here because she graduated, but she won for best sports story, first place. And what I loved at the end about that comment is that I love the comment where it says, "No doubt I will see your sports byline in the national media someday." So I thought that was kind of cool. Because these are judged by people working in the field. So these are from New York State publications. They're the ones who judge these. And then second place, Owen Daryl Cervic is right over here. And she won second place for best column. And again, she always writes amazing columns, so. And then Angelina May graduated, second place for sports. And it's about the girls' wrestling team, so it was a new thing, so. And then third place, Alexander Weiss, another graduate, and he wrote about, they loved his parking column, so he won third place for best column. And then Haley Hood won honorable mention for photography. And Ben Fight won for the substitute shortage article for a news story. And then there's a picture I was able to get. It's not everybody, and I'll get into the numbers in a little bit, but that's just, I was able to get majority of people who are editors, and Lacey's right over there. So we have lots of people who work on the staff. So that's our staff. So actually, I'm gonna go backwards, I think, or not. Does this go backwards?
Should be the others, hopefully the other side button.
Yep, there you go. Okay, so before we get to that, I would like, the editors would like to say something, so I don't know if you want to.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ray Dye, and I'm currently a managing editor for The Spectator. I've been working on our publication for 2 years, and I just wanted to say that, I absolutely love it. Not only is it a great way for students to express their voices by writing about the issues that are relevant to them, but being on the staff has taught me so much about how to present every side of every issue, how to report on issues fairly, and has also allowed me to develop my writing skills over the past 2 years. Also, our journalism program, which Mrs. Reinhardt will be talking about, gives students the opportunity to not only earn college credits, but they also learn skills in writing and rhetoric, and they can be on the Spectator staff. I think you could say that instead of being spectators, we're truly being participants in something beautiful, relevant, and educational. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Owen Daryl Sturbeck, and as Mrs. Reinhardt already said, I'm one of the editors-in-chief of The Spectator this year. I joined the Spectator last year when I was doing a semester abroad in France, and so I started writing my cultural perspective column. Since then, I've had a wonderful time working on the staff, both writing news and opinion articles, copy editing, and learning how to do layout. I think it's been very valuable since I've really been able to strengthen my writing skills, as Ray mentioned. Our trip to Saratoga was really great because we got the chance to participate in some workshops with other journalists from across the state that are actually professionals in the field, so that was pretty cool. And so yeah, it's been wonderful to be a part of a paper that truly reflects the student voice. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Isaac. I'm also a co-editor-in-chief with Owen. I don't have anything prepared, but I just like to say how much work we put into this newspaper, how much work I know our advisors put in after school, getting everything ready, putting everything on the page and sending it out to the print shop. I've been on the staff since I was a freshman taking pictures. Through this process, I've learned how to write articles. I never knew I could write this well. So yeah, it's just amazing. I can't wait to continue what I've been doing on The Spectator for another year.
Yes, before she talks a little bit about the college credits, I just want to say thank you to the board and to the community, because this would not happen. There's no way this could happen without the support. I mean, you know, Mr. Paschke has gone way beyond what most principals, you know, would do to support us. And there are many schools who, you know, who don't really value the student newspaper, but, you know, for a long time we have a tradition here. And it's not just a fluke, you know. And when you see the other schools that participate in this, many of them are much bigger, many private schools. So this is truly an accomplishment. It's not just like 5 schools enter this. This is like a statewide thing. So, you know, thank you to, you know, the board and, you know, everyone, the faculty, you know, everyone in this community really does pull behind our students. And we're very lucky to have the music program we have, the athletic program, the art program, and this just is one more way, and it's so authentic because, you know, Mrs. Reinhardt and I really just get out of the way and let them do it. That's the secret sauce, is just to get out of the way, you know, give them the basics and let them go, and you can see the talent here in these students. Thank you.
And I don't need to add anything because they said everything way better than I could. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the program because I thought you might want a little background. So we just started offering the 1510, 1530, and 2740 JCC courses. I can click this thing. Oh, there you go. Hold on, I got one side to work. Oh, there you go. Okay. So how did we get here? All right, so I had this whole thing I was going to say, and I'm going to keep it really short and just add in that before all this, and this kind of connects to what everybody else was saying, but in Mississauga about the support. So when I went to this high school in 1981 through 1985, yes, I'm dating myself, but I worked on The Spectator, but I also was in the musical. I was actually more into, I was editor of the yearbook. And what I think is really outstanding is the fact that we've had that program throughout. It's never really gone away. So to me, you know, the fact that we still are standing here, and I benefited from this program. I mean, everything that I've really done in my career ended up coming back to working on a newspaper, which I would not have thought in high school at all. I was going to be a math teacher. Yes. So anyway, background anyway, prior to 2014, I advised The Spectator from 2000 to 2008 and taught the journalism courses. I taught broadcast journalism from 2008 to 2014, and I also co-advised the yearbook with Mr. Pinjator. Mrs. Sedota advised The Spectator and yearbook at Fredonia from 1981 to 85, and the Brockton Review from 85 to 2011 when she retired and started substitute teaching. And then Todd Crandall approached us about co-advising the paper together. We said we were going to do it for 2 years or more, and now we're at 10 because we love it so much. Okay, now I get this to click. Okay, whoops, I do this all the time. So, all students in the journalism courses contribute to the Spectator through writing, graphics, layout, photography, and copy editing. Also, in addition, students interested in editorial positions, along with students who join the staff but are not enrolled in the course, attend after-school meetings and work on their own time to publish the paper at least 6 times a year. We typically have at least 15 students not enrolled in the courses, working on the paper in editorial or staff position as an extracurricular activity. These are often students who take the J1 course and then continue working the following year in editorial roles. Oops, I get it to click and then it goes really fast. Okay, so when we started devising in 2014, we had 5 students, the enrollment was 5 students. We were able to recruit some that year to get the class to 20, and then we averaged about 20 to 30 students a year until 2018 when there were about 50 students. So, Journalism 1 or English 1510. So students in grades 10 and 12 may take the Journalism 1 course for their English 10 or 12 graduation credit. 11th grade students can take it in addition to their English 11 course as an elective. Students have the option to take the course and not earn the JCC credit as well. So not everybody does that. The course is considered dual enrollment, where students are taking the Introduction to Journalism course and completing the coursework for the English 1510 English and Composition 1. It is taught full year, and students can earn 3 college credits that transfer to SUNY colleges and many private colleges if they complete all the required portfolio assignments and earn a C in the course. Students who successfully earn course credit are eligible to take the 1530 English Composition 2 and 2740 News Writing and Editing courses in their junior or senior year. Most take it senior year as their full year English 12 course or as an elective. Juniors can take it as an additional elective, and all courses weight a 4 in the student's GPA. So just to give you an idea of where we started the JCC courses, the year of COVID actually was the first year. So the first year it was taught all remote and then with a little bit hybrid at the end of the year. That year I had 36 students enrolled, and then 2020, 21, 22 there were 29, 22, 23, 38, 23 this year, 51, and next year as of, I don't know what the current enrollment is, the projected numbers were 54. Journalism 2. Course was first offered in 22-23 because that was the first group that was eligible to take that course. The course is a full year course with ENG 1530 offered in the first semester for 3 credit hours, and then ENG 2740 offered a second semester for 3 credit hours. Students are enrolled for the full year and must pass the English 1530 to be eligible for the 2740. The first year there were 13 students enrolled. This year there's 10, and last time I knew there were 16 interested in May, as of May 29th. Yes?
Can you absorb that number of students, 54? Will everyone that's interested be able to participate?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, so far so good.
Okay.
I mean, so like this gives you the overall numbers. I combined them all together just to give you an overall idea. So right now, so right now, this year we had 61 students in 4 sections. Next year I have 70 students in 4 sections. I mean, so I think so. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be. Yeah, we're good. And that's it. So if you have any other questions, that's what we're working toward. And I'm really proud of this because it's been really, I've learned so much from adding the JCC component to the journalism. It really works well together. And JCC has really been wonderful in supporting its teachers with, materials and resources, etc. So that's what I have.
Questions from the board?
No questions, but congratulations, sounds fantastic. You've got obviously tons of kids are interested and involved, so fantastic.
Thank you.
So I will just say, we have done mission, vision, core beliefs, where our mission is for every student to become their greatest selves. And some students, maybe their greatest self is being an athlete or a musician, but this gives them the opportunity to further and it's not just written, their journalism, it's picture taking. It's seeing certain things that are out there in our environment that are appealing to students in a newspaper. But then there's the excellence of this that to me blows my mind away, that you're able to continue this for so long with excellence. And it's, you're getting the students to see the little things and do those little things correctly. And that's why this Spectator continues to get the awards year after year. And I think that, I applaud every student involved in this that is striving to do better and become their greatest selves. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
So next we have a presentation in regards to our high school daily schedule, which is interesting.
Mr. Pesh, take it away.
Thank you. I apologize. I was on the senior trip yesterday riding some roller coasters, and unfortunately at 54 my back is not as happy with me as I thought it would be this morning or this afternoon. It's getting a little more painful as the day goes on, letting me know that I'm older. So I'm just going to sit and do this if that's okay. We're going to start off with our scheduling discussion. Block scheduling, really any schedule in any study that we've looked at has pros and cons. We began studying alternate schedules and committees several years before COVID. And the reality is, year after year with scheduling committees, we were never able to come to a consensus. There were people who wanted to examine a purely traditional schedule. We looked at some sort of a combination between block scheduling and traditional scheduling. We looked at 6-day rotations where the kids don't have the same class at the same time every day. There was a lot of innovation in the discussions that we had, but unfortunately, every year as we tried to make a decision on this, there wasn't consensus. So we stayed where we were. And to be 100% transparent, I would say that a little over 50%, maybe 60% of the staff really just wanted to keep the block schedule. I think that was real. And those that were looking for a change presented a lot of the different options that we had, but there was never enough to make a decision. And maybe this is a fault of mine, but I do tend to try to make sure that we're all in a good place before we move on. But unfortunately, I think through that process of like, all right, let's see if there are more people that want to do this or do this other schedule, there was never a decision made. And I think once we got to COVID, we started to see that there were some issues that I think we need to address, and there needs to be a decision made. I just wanted to mention three of the commonly recognized cons in a block schedule. And this is, if you look at research of block scheduling, to be honest, most of the research on block scheduling was early 2000s. There hasn't been a lot recently on it, and some schools have stayed with it, some schools have gone to other schedules, like the ones that I mentioned. But in any research, you can see that poor attendance can magnify learning loss. And the example that I typically give for this is like every other week, students will meet with their class only twice, so like a Tuesday and a Thursday. So if a student is absent on Thursday, they'll go from the Tuesday that week to the following Monday without meeting with that class. And that, to me, is problematic. That's a long time to be away from the class, away from the teacher, away from the peers, where we're trying to get more socialization within the classrooms and get connectedness among the kids. That's a long time to go. And I'm not saying that that attendance will improve with a different schedule. I'm just saying that under a traditional schedule, I feel like the intensity of missing one day would be less. So like, for example, if they missed that Thursday in a traditional schedule, they would still have 4 class meetings during that week. Obviously, short attention spans, highly documented that, in the TikTok generation, 30 seconds for a TikTok is, even that sometimes is difficult to keep some students' attention. And an 84-minute class or an 82-minute class, we have both depending on the time of day, can be difficult for kids to focus for that amount of time. Learning fatigue, which is the technical name cognitive load theory. The idea behind this is that classes that are rich in content, there's a lot of it. Like some classes might not have a ton of stuff to get through in a year compared to other classes that have an incredible amount of material. And so if you're teaching from start to finish, 84 minutes straight, sometimes about, and I mentioned this a little bit later, sometimes about halfway through, kids suffer from like learning fatigue, where you feel like my brain is full, and if you didn't get the stuff from the first 40 minutes, the last 40 minutes is challenging to learn, because they're like, I haven't processed the first stuff, and that's what that piece is. So those are three areas that are recognized as cons. Now, since COVID, our high school has been experiencing approximately 30% chronic absenteeism. Last year it was 31%, and what that means is that a student is chronically absent if they miss 10% or more of the school days in a year. So that would be 18 or more school days. So that's concerning that 30 to 31% of our students are missing 18 or more school days per year. And when you miss a school day in a block schedule, you're missing two, essentially, of those periods compared to the block. But you're not missing all of your classes, because there's the next day you have the other classes that you wouldn't have taken on the A day, on the B day. But it's concerning for that particular group of classes that you're missing that much time. Teenage attention spans are at an all-time low after COVID, and teachers report, regardless of the schedule, just the students that we're seeing now. There are gaps in student knowledge that are larger than those that we've experienced in the past. After COVID, we feel like the kids are missing a lot. For example, like reading, a lot of the skills in reading we feel have gone down. Just general skills have gone down, including socialization skills, and mental health, as you know, that we've mentioned at other board meetings, is a concern. So moving to a traditional schedule with 40-minute classes that meet every day addresses all three of those cons. Strong students, I feel, are going to be fine in any schedule, and that's really what research points out. Most of the kids that are able to focus and are strong academically, regardless of the schedule, they perform adequately. With more students who struggle, however, from previous meetings I mentioned, 504 plans have nearly tripled. Individualized education programs, IEPs, have increased significantly. Shorter periods that meet every day and give time to practice and process will be helpful for students who struggle. Also, in the traditional schedule, students meet daily with teachers and peers. That allows for daily feedback and progress monitoring. So in situations where we're in the current schedule, you meet every other day, assuming that you're not absent, and you can get feedback every other day from your teacher and meet with your peers. Every day you get a chance to do that, and you get more feedback and a little bit of time to practice every day instead of a lot all at once, and then you have to manage your time over 2 days to do that homework. So, and this is just an editorial comment of mine, that I feel like and this is not just a comment on our schedule, this is just a comment in general for all of our teaching at our school, and not just in the high school. I think that this is a district imperative that we need to teach the students that we have currently. And I believe I've said this at previous meetings before as well, but I think we're really well geared to teach students that come to school, want to be in school, value education, are going to attend their classes regularly. But I don't think that we do an amazing job, and we can do better with our students that are struggling, and the people that I mentioned earlier with the 504 plans and the IEPs, and just general kids who are struggling more with mental health. I think we can meet their needs a little better than we do currently. Our current block schedule, and this is going to be speaking to just the availability of classes for students and ease of scheduling courses. Our current block schedule offers 4 different times to take classes per day. We can have a block 1-2 class, we can have a block 3-4 class, we have a block class that meets during lunch periods, and then we have an 8-9 period. So really there's 4 different times where you can take a class in a day. This does not allow for block classes to run at other times. So for example, we don't have a block 2-3 class, that doesn't exist. We don't have a block 4-5 class, that doesn't exist. And we don't have a 7-8 class, that doesn't exist. So we're really limited to those four sections. And part of the reason that we don't have those is it would require more staff to offer those because of the overlap time with the other classes. Oops, sorry. I guess I can leave that there. A traditional schedule offers 9 different times every day to schedule classes, and that vastly increases the number of ways to arrange schedules. We've had parent complaints, especially from parents who are in school districts that have a traditional schedule, that, hey, you know, my kid really had to make some tough choices. If they had, I have kids that go to our school that could have had the schedule that we were looking for, but because of your block schedule, they weren't able to get all the classes that they wanted. It's a significant number of difference for the ways that we can arrange a schedule when you have 9 periods to work with every single day. There's concerns about losing instruction time, and that's accurate. There is less instruction time in a traditional schedule. Double hitting again. Right now we have 84 or 82-minute classes every other day. With the traditional schedule, there'll be 40-minute classes every day. So if you look at this over 2 days, so you can actually compare the two schedules together, you'd meet 40 minutes twice, which would be 80 minutes, okay, in a traditional schedule. Does that make sense? So the difference will be 4 or 2 minutes less instruction every 2 days. The students will have 4 or 2 minutes less instruction for their class. You know, but I would argue that 40-minute instruction could be more focused, and that in the longer class periods, in order to maintain student attention and focus, the teachers, if they're doing a job to really keep the kids involved with their class, they have to transition to several different activities during that 82 to 84 minute class, which also takes time to, okay, we're done with this, take a minute, you know, do what you need to do, maybe get a drink, we're going to go on to the next thing, and they use that time as transition time between their activities, which also takes away instruction time. But you know, if you think of it as just, hey, we're just here for 84 minutes, comparing that to 80, it's different. I get it, but I think in a 40-minute class, it's a lot more focused with fewer transitions. So, but we could argue either way, and I mean, to me, it's almost a wash. That's what I have for where we are with our schedule. I do see that there were some questions that were presented from the board who got this earlier that I want to make sure that I address. Before doing that, Ray, you're still here? I don't want to embarrass Ray, but Ray came to me a couple weeks ago and said, hey, are we allowed to do petitions? Because I don't think that I really like the idea of a traditional schedule, and I supported that. And I gave him a pass so that he could go to our advisement classes and have kids sign petitions if they want to. And Ray did that. Ray's not presenting that tonight, but Ray had a lot of signatures from kids on this. You know, there was a concern, and this is, you know, I don't want to take anything away from it, and I want to respect Ray, because I think Ray did a great job, and I respect everything that he did. A couple of concerns were, like in advisement, some of the kids didn't realize what they were signing. And I had a couple of kids come to me after their class and said, hey, I signed this, but I really did want to be in a 40-minute class. I didn't know what it was that I was signing. And I think Ray felt that kind of invalidated his petition, but I don't want people to think that there wasn't a petition. I don't want, Ray, your efforts to be ignored, or the student voice to be ignored. You know, the reality is with any change, there are difficulties, and people who agree and people who disagree. And I think for me, going back to the very beginning of the presentation, I think now is the time to make that choice. And it came down to just saying, let's make the choice, and now we can work together and decide exactly what it is that, you know, any concerns that we have, how do we address those as a group, have student stakeholders as part of the input, teachers that are concerned. Whatever those concerns are, we move forward with that to start next year. The other piece of this is, unlike what we did when we went to block, I'm one of the old people that was here in the traditional schedule before we went to block. You know, I feel like, and this is my opinion, but there was an illusion of choice given that when the principal made the choice and then left. And even though we had students like say, hey, this is what I want, or this is what I don't want, and teachers say, hey, this is what I want and what I don't want, in the end, he, like, quote was, this is a one-way train, we're making the decision. So I think that kind of devalued everybody's input at that point, and I definitely don't want to do that. But I also want to be transparent that I made this decision based on input and 4 years of real discussion among staff and students before COVID, and then the data from COVID just made it very clear to me that this was the right choice. So, you know, when you make a decision like this, there are people that are going to be unhappy, but I also want to include their opinions in making it the best that it can be. So, I mean, Ray, I applaud the work that you did, and I appreciate it, and I value it, and I want to make sure that you know that. Thank you. You're welcome. Yes.
I definitely appreciate you acknowledging that, you know, the need to engage and understand the concerns and questions. And I think your statement about really meeting the needs of the current students. So, you know, what is your vision of, you know, how do we identify those concerns and then develop a plan to make sure that those concerns are addressed going forward?
Sure. I think that you know, as we move, we don't have a lot of days left in the school year, but we do have some time. And what I'd like to do is get together with Ray, and I know that Ray has a list of students with concerns, have an opportunity for all of them to meet with me. I mean, I meet with staff and we can meet on our own, but the students, we don't have a lot of time left. So I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to get together. I want to hear all of their concerns. I've heard rumors of concerns, but I don't have all of them. But you know, some of the concerns that same questions that you guys had, and what I understand when you guys spoke or read this, you had some questions. You know, things like students were concerned that senior flex will still be available. Absolutely, and I think a lot of the concerns are things that will be quick to answer. What is the plan for homework? I've heard students that were concerned, or you know, and unfortunately, this was true when we went from traditional to block, that there were teachers that were adamantly against going to the block, and in my opinion, unprofessionally influenced students and said, you can't be successful in this. You know, when we're in the block schedule, there's no way you're going to succeed, and not a good thing. Not a good thing. And this was back around '99 when we went to it, and that went on for a couple of years. And you know, I think there are teachers who have very strong feelings about this, and I'm not accusing any of our teachers of doing this right now. I honestly don't know. But I think that whenever we make changes like this and people feel very strongly about their choice, that sometimes the kids pick up on their opinions about it. So, like for example, the homework question about, you know, are we going to get the same amount of homework in 40 minutes as we got in 80 minutes? And the answer is no. You're not going to get the same amount of homework in 40 minutes that you got in 80 minutes. It will be at least half. It will be modified to meet a 40-minute class. And if you look at the amount of homework that's given, you know, everybody jokes, but I mean, math gives a lot of homework, I would say more than anybody. And a lot of the classes currently do a lot of classwork. There isn't a huge amount of homework assigned from a lot of the classes. I know, like, AP US History and other AP courses do have homework, and they assign a lot, but a lot of the other classes don't. And the reality is, as we get into the schedule, the homework assignments will be pared way down. And just like when we went from traditional to block, this forces all of the teachers to take a look at what they do and why they do it and what's important. And I think that there was to me, at least I felt this in our high school, there was growth among the teaching staff because we all looked at our stuff and made it better. And you know, you identify, do we need to give 50 homework assignments that ask about the same, or homework problems that ask the same thing, or can we do this in 10? And you know, there's a lot of good that comes out of this, and I think the teaching improves overall when we do these things. Yes?
I think along that line, you know, in addition to the student input, what supports do our faculty need to make those adjustments, right? Because it is a big change. It does require, and maybe some of our teachers were here in '99 when we did that, you know, the initial swap, but what guidance, support, will we have workshops for them to help them with that transition? And, you know, do we have that buy-in to kind of go through that process between now and September?
You know, that's a really good question, and I think the answer is mixed. There are teachers who do want to like examine, is there a better way to teach in a 40-minute than what I've been used to? And I'm fully supportive of supporting them, you know, through any workshops. They get 3 paid summer and service days that we can focus on those things for the teachers. And I'm happy to work with them to provide that. However, we actually did the traditional schedule during COVID for 1 year. So anybody that was here during COVID did this for a full year just a few years ago. So it's not brand new or something that they haven't seen. Yes, COVID was very different. It wasn't a regular year, but the 40-minute classes were. And if you remember, the reason we chose to do that was we felt that 84 minutes in front of a screen for each class was very difficult. So we came back partway through that year, and we taught the rest of the year, and we maintained that schedule with students coming to school. And so the teachers are aware of how to do it, but could they use some brushing up or additional support? Happy to give it.
So will you be planning that, or is that going to have to be requested from the faculty? Like what, kind of, what do we have in motion?
We have an instructional leader meeting on Thursday this week, and so what I want to do is really focus it on departments, because I think that really general professional development isn't necessarily as effective. What might work in one area isn't necessarily applicable in another. So what I would like to do is do targeted professional development. And when I speak to the instructional leaders, if there are things that they need for their departments on Thursday, that we can address those needs. And there are some departments that, like for example, special ed and phys ed, they're currently in a traditional schedule. They don't need anything. There are some people that know what they're doing with this schedule, feel very confident they can move ahead without anything. But there are some that would like to see some professional development, I'm certain of it. Yes?
What strategies do we have going forward to target or to tackle that absenteeism problem?
You know, that's a tough one. The schedule's not going to fix that, and I hope I mentioned that earlier. I have no intention of our schedule fixing absenteeism, just reducing, hopefully, the negative effects of having long periods of time where you're not meeting your classes. You know, I think that MTSS is a huge piece of this, the multi-tiered system of supports. A lot of the behaviors that we see in high school, if we trace back, you can see them in middle school and you can see them in elementary school. And you know, I think enriching our MTSS programs, where the MTSS encompasses targeted interventions for students that are academic, behavioral, mental health, social, emotional, all of those things. And I think those are a lot of the big reasons why kids aren't showing up. They might feel uncomfortable in school, unsafe at school, have anxiety at school. They might be afraid of a certain teacher, it might be a class, but those are all things that if we're taking the time as we go from kindergarten through 12th grade and really addressing those individual needs, it will happen. And I think part of the help for that, I'm really appreciative that we're going to be hiring a full-time social worker that will help with that. I think down the road, as we see the trend of needs continuing to increase, there will probably need to be additional staff to help meet the needs for all the interventions that we need to give. I know that we have students that wait in our student services office, to see a counselor, and technically our counselors, our school counselors, are academic counselors. They're not therapists, and they're not mental health counselors. So they're doing their best with what they have, but that's not really necessarily meeting the needs for our mental health. So I think there more partnerships with outside groups that come in, which we currently have some. I think that will be a way to help that as well. But it's tough, and not to throw all of this on the parents either, but we need our parents' help to get the kids to school. It's tough when we're looking like at our absentee rate. The tardy rate is incredibly high as well. And unfortunately, the parents or the kids that are showing up tardy are being dropped off by their parents. And so the parents are involved to some extent with that. So why can't they get them up earlier to get to the bus? And I'm not judging. I don't know. There might be reasons. I don't know why they can't get up early and take the bus. And then if they're driving them to school late, could they do it earlier. And I don't know the reasons for why that happens. And again, I don't want to put the blame squarely on the parents, but I think that this is something that we need to partner with parents to help with the absenteeism as well. Yes?
I have several items.
Okay.
Maybe starting with the absenteeism, just throwing something out there. I know it's so effective in the early education with WheeLock when they start with family visits. I wonder if we have a small enough school district that that may be feasible to do family visits at the high school level to get buy-in from the entire family, including the student and the parents. Just an idea. All right, then, moving on, you spoke about incorporating student and teacher feedback, and Ray would be a part of that, and I would just like to posit that I would love to see Lacey involved with that as our board member representative. I think it would be a great way to get her involved. And just in terms of, I really appreciate clarity, advance notice, and communication. So this first clarity, the idea, you mentioned when the block schedule was put into place that there was pushback because people felt like it was a train that was already going, but it kind of sounds like this is a train that's already going. So I'm just wondering where the contrast is between those things. And maybe this idea that there are so many things, so many questions that would be so easily answered, well, maybe it would have been better perhaps to communicate earlier and have a list of FAQs so that when people first heard about this, there weren't more unanswered questions than there were answers. So maybe going forward, just managing that communication with the stakeholders, because the idea that like you're not sure whether teachers might be influencing students, well, I wonder if the teachers have had a chance to hear everything you've presented to us about this already. Were they already communicated with before students heard about this? Because that order of things perhaps could eliminate some of the negative reaction to this change. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Welcome. Just to comment, I put out a video to our students the other day, and that was actually one of the first things that I said, is that I have to take ownership for some of the problems with this, is that I should have been more out in front with the students ahead of time, and that would have alleviated a lot of the misinformation that's out there. And I recognize that, yep.
One more thing before
Yes.
I pass on the baton. Two things I forgot to mention. One is everyone happy with, what is the length of lunch period, 20 minutes?
Yes.
I'm wondering, is that something the students like, or if not, is this a time to perhaps look at lengthening that slightly? And I'm wondering, will this resolve the issue of students who currently don't have a scheduled lunch?
After talking with our counselors that are doing the main scheduling for the lunches, they believe, yes, every kid should have a lunch. You're welcome. The issue of, the only time that a kid would not have a lunch is if a student and parents choose to completely overload their schedule, in which case they would be taking 9 classes every single day. Not my recommendation, obviously.
So, change is always scary, and you're going to find with change that people are for it, people are against it, people are in doubt.
Yep.
And, you know, I take for example that little circle a few hundred feet from the building here.
Yeah.
You know, I was a little apprehensive about the amount of space that we're using, but it's worked out wonderfully. So, you know, speaking to change in general, from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of different pieces that actually have concerns to how this is going to work. I guess my biggest question is the kids with a 504 plans and the IEPs. Does this schedule change target helping these kids more?
Yes, and that's my opinion. If you look at research and what we currently do with our special ed kids, our special ed resource rooms are not a part of the block. They're 40 minutes because they feel that, and as a special ed team, they feel that the 40 minutes for their resource rooms in special ed are more conducive to what the kids need. So I would say yes.
So to all the things that, we've had some really good questions as to concerns about the change. But, I mean, what I'm kind of focusing on and the whole issue is for the kids. And so would it be your thinking that this would, for the bigger part of the population, be a positive change for the kids?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I feel that in general, the students that perform well are going to perform as well under either schedule. I think that the schedule that we have now is, again, my opinion, and based on what we see as negatives of the block schedule and research, and the data that we have about our current students, the students that are struggling in those areas would be better served with the 40-minute classes every day. Is this the pill, the magic pill that fixes everything? No. But I think that I don't like to say this, but again, going back to teaching the kids that we have, I think that we spend a lot of time and energy, and rightfully so. I agree that every student should get the best, and we've added a lot of AP classes. I think we're up to 11 AP classes. We have all of these JCC classes and excellent reporting from our paper and the extracurriculars that we have. I can't really point to a lot of things that we've done to help our most vulnerable, struggling students compared to what we do currently have for our better students. So to me, yeah, I think this is really important for our kids, and 100% from my heart, I think this is the best thing for them, and I don't think it's going to hurt any of our better kids. I think it's going to help our kids that struggle.
So to the absenteeism, this would actually, I mean, absenteeism or an individual just gets ill and has to miss a class.
Sure.
This is going to be something that's going to keep them on track.
Hopefully so. I mean, we could also argue, though, that in a block schedule, and I want to be completely fair and open about this, in a block schedule, when you miss a day, yes, you're missing essentially two periods of every single one of the classes you miss. But if that's the only day you miss, you have 4 classes that you need to go catch up with the teacher on. And in the traditional schedule, if you miss a day, you'll probably have 6 or 7 teachers that you need to go and see. One of the things that has been helpful, though, as we've improved our technology, is that a lot of students don't need to go and necessarily see the teachers when they're sick as much because they use Google Classroom. And they only need to go to see the teachers that maybe they need some explanation for, which would be after school either way. And so it really depends on the student, the class, and the day, I guess, for the block schedule. Because in the block schedule, some students might have 3 classes one day and 4 the next, or 3 one day, 3 the next, 2 one day, 4 the next. It just depends on the way the student schedules are made. So it really depends on when you miss. But yes, I feel that having 4 more class meetings on just for one missed day in a week is helpful for all of our kids.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
How does this affect the music program? Because currently we have a double block for band on B days, and then there's like a double block for chorus on A days.
Yep.
Will band be one period and chorus be one period on the next day?
Nope, so they'll both meet every day. The way that it's set up currently for next year, the band would meet first period every day. At the same time, the orchestra would meet first period every day. Chorus would meet second period every day.
Adding on to that question, band, by the time we finish setting up, pulling out our instruments and warming up, we are completely through first period and we can't, like, we haven't started playing our actual music yet. That possibly would make a negative impact towards like the accuracy of how we play or how well we put together music, because I know we work really, really hard to make things like, I don't know how to make it like sound good. I'm trying to think of the right word, but like where are we going to make up for the loss of time? Because even in normal classes, by the time we sit down, we pull all of our stuff out, we stop talking, we actually get focused and done with attendance. It's 10 minutes into the class. So if we have to do that every day for the 40-minute block, we're not just missing out long-term on 2 or 4 minutes over a 2-day time period, we're missing out on like closer to 20. And especially at the end of class, kids are ready to go 5 minutes before the end of class, whether we have the 40-minute block or the 80-minute block. Kids are pulling out their stuff, packing it up, and they're ready to go. They're looking at the clock 5 minutes ahead of time. Where with the 80-minute block, in my experience, when we're in the middle of class, as long as the teacher is keeping us engaged, I personally am not wandering off, and I myself am a student that has attention issues, and I have a 504 plan. So as long as the teacher is doing, like, keeping our attention with us or keeping us engaged, the 8-minute block has been really beneficial to get more, like, to get more work done. We have time for questions at the end usually. We have time to ask teachers in between days on the homework instead of it just be due the next day. And we were so lost on the homework and we didn't know what to do, but now we're failing the homework because we couldn't go after school and ask questions the following day after we had looked it over. So, like, is there a way that we can compensate for the lost time that we're going to have at the beginning and end of class? Because I know you said more focused lessons, but even then.
First, let me say that I appreciate the way that you asked all those questions because they were really information seeking and not like attacking. That was really good. To be honest, the music teachers are in favor of having the 40-minute periods, and they feel that having the shorter periods, even though it does take time, you do get better at getting the stuff out and getting there quickly. They would modify the way that they do it, but remember that you're only going to do, instead of doing maybe 4 songs in a block period and working on them, you're going to be working on 2 of them when you're in a 40-minute period, and then the next day you do the other 2. So it's not like you're doing the same amount of stuff in 40 minutes that you did in 80, so you don't have to get through as much. So you actually can focus on those 2 songs and get really good. And yes, there is time for setup and takedown. I was in the band when I was in high school. We had 40-minute classes, and our band performed great. We did won NISMA awards and all the same things we're doing right now that we're getting high marks on. We did a really good job with it. So I know that Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Terreri, and who am I missing? Oh, Mr. Shanahan, sorry. I'm thinking music or instruments. And Mr. Shanahan obviously doesn't have the time of like getting out the instruments and all of that stuff. Mrs. Terreri probably has one of the most times. They take a long time to tune and all the things and she's super for this and thinks it would be way better. And she taught under a traditional schedule in the school that she was in before she came here, and she feels it's better. Again, that's her opinion. Everybody has their own opinion. And that's just true of all of the classes. Mr. Hawk made a really good point. Change is hard, and initially you might not see how could we possibly do this. And the way that we're doing it now just seems to be normal and natural, and it's wonderful. And something else would be really weird, and I don't know if we can do it. Once you get into it, you're going to find that it does work and it can work, and you can be very successful in it as well. It's just a matter of experiencing it. And what I said earlier, I think can't be overstated. The teachers, I think the teachers' lessons get a lot better because they do take that time and really focus on how to utilize their time the best. Yes.
Thank you, Lacey.
Yes.
Thank you for answering that question.
We had brought a student representative onto this board just for that reason. So, thank you.
So I think definitely hearing that absenteeism, we're not solving that, so, we're not looking at it as a success measure.
Correct.
So what are some of the things that you're thinking that next year at this time, after we've done this for a year, what would you be looking at to say this was the right move? And 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, change is hard, change takes time, we're not gonna see all of the, benefits potentially in the first year, but what are the things that you are considering tracking, for us to know and say, okay, next year, let's hear how this change went, and are we seeing some of these improvements?
And that's an interesting point, because that's something I've been thinking about. How do we measure some of these things? Because like the big things that we're looking at are kids going to focus better? Are they going to have better attention in class? And what is a measurement for that? I mean, is it a test score? Probably not. Is it going to be more student feedback? And I think that's going to be really the measure, the teacher and student feedback that we get. I think it's going to have to come from surveys. And I know surveys can be really wishy-washy sometimes, and it depends on how well people, how seriously they take them. It depends on is everybody going to actually respond to it. But those aren't really great measurable things. But we can certainly see, where I walk around to the classes a lot, and even teachers who love the block and I don't think my kids are having issues. When I walk in, after 45 or 50 minutes, you see the tapping of the pen, the bouncing legs, and in some cases it's using the phone and all of that. Is that going to decrease? That's my hope, that they're going to do that. And a sense of the students that might feel like they're buried. Will that improve their attendance, down the road? Is that contributing? And I don't know. I have a feeling that there are kids who don't come to school, obviously because of the anxiety of things. And if they have an opportunity to do a little bit every day and be focused for that time and don't feel completely overwhelmed after 80 minutes. And again, not every kid feels that way, and I get it. And I'm not talking about our kids that are stronger, that can sit for 80 minutes and learn really well. But for those who can't, I want to see, there's some correlation between some of obviously the kids' grades and their attendance, because when you're not here, you're not learning, and your grades are low. So I'm hopeful that there will be some attendance changes. But I would be really hesitant, even if the attendance went from having 30% chronic absenteeism to 10%, which would be a huge improvement. I wouldn't necessarily attribute that to the schedule, because it might be the fact that the kids are socializing a little bit more, seeing each other every day. I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint what all of those variables are going to be, but I do value being able to say, hey, this was successful at the end. And I don't know how to say, like when we went from traditional in 1999 to block, if there was a measure then either of, and I don't know, but I do think that we can do a better job of meeting regularly to assess where are we, what do we feel is going, look at the data that we do have that we can find, and then make those changes to it. And if we need to make subtle changes or even large changes, we take the time to do that and not just stagnate and say, hey, this is the schedule we came up with 20 years ago, let's just stick with it. I think that we need to be vigilant about continuing every year to look and meet with kids, get the feedback, and see what we need to change.
Yeah, I think surveys, are probably a great indicator to understand. But I don't know, also, I know assessments aren't the be-all and end-all, but would we compare, just even from some curiosity, what do some of our regions and some of those scores look like this year after a block schedule year? And just see, not to say that that's success or failure, but
there might be improvements.
Some indicators, right? So I would definitely look forward to that next year.
Yeah, me too. I will too. I'm anxious to see, and as much as I know there's a lot of angst and a lot of feelings about this from everybody, but there's also an excitement that we're going to try something new, and let's see if we can make it the best. And hopefully we enter this with an attitude of, all right, either, I think this is a great move, let's go with it, or, hey, this wasn't my first choice, but how do I make this the best for our kids? From our teaching staff and our support staff as well.
I have one last question.
Yes.
So you've spoken a lot about the pros of the 40-minute schedule. What is going to be the biggest con, in your opinion, other than people are gonna have questions, or people are gonna be uncomfortable with the change for years? Or...
Some of the cons, like for example, let's take science, okay? This could be true for science, it could be true, like art is the great example, woodworking and construction. Things like in a science lab, there's an amount of time and chemicals, and in art there's like maybe wet clay that you're working with, or in woodworking and construction there's wet cement that you're working with. And when you have an 84-minute class, you know, it's like, all right, I've got 84 minutes to work with this stuff. All right, when there's a 40-minute class, like in an art class, you have this wet clay. You then have, at the end, you have to wrap it up and make sure that it's really well secured, and then the next day you come back to do it again. Whereas in 80 minutes, you might be able to get a lot of that done. Where in a 40-minute class, you have to be flexible and make those changes. And what I see, those are probably the biggest negatives for a 40-minute class, is that in classes like those, where there are things that could spoil, if you will, you know, like the clay or a chemical that only lasts a certain amount of time, I think you have to be very cognizant of your time, but you also need to be creative and decide how you're going to do that. I mean, there are art classes and construction classes all over the state, all over the country that are 40 minutes or even 39. So there's some that are meet for 39 minutes, and they find ways to be successful for those. So is it ideal? Maybe not, you know, for a 40-minute, you know, as compared to an 80-minute for those types of things.
Will science classes still have the extra lab period? 'Cause right
Yes.
now,
So the goal here, just again to explain what I'm thinking, the goal here is to take the schedule that we have this year and essentially have the exact same schedule next year, as far as like the amount of time that the classes have. If there's sciences, they have the extra lab time. If there are everyday math classes, they have that extra time. I don't want to make any changes to that. We're studying something called 7 Highly Effective Habits right now as a district. And one of the things that we were looking at was when you make a change, you're not supposed to start with compromise. So our goal is to take what we have and keep it relatively the same. It's just we're going to go from 80 minutes to 40 minutes essentially. But all the other stuff is still going to be the same. And then the compromise comes. After we get into it and we experience it for a year, we can actually have some data and feelings. Because right now everyone's like, I'm not sure what it's going to be. And none of us do. I mean, I taught that, so I feel pretty confident what it's going to look like. But you know, it's a new thing. So let's experience it together for a year with the people that we have now. Not the people that we had 25 years ago when we used to do this. You know, and it might look different, and we might be able to tweak some things, say, hey, this might be something that maybe we could have a 60-minute class in the middle of the day. Or, you know, other, you know, certain classes that might need a little bit more time, can we do that? But again, the research from 7 Highly Effective Habits is don't make the changes first, don't compromise first. Start off with, you know, making the least amount of change and then talk about the compromise. So I'm trying to follow that we learned in our workshops.
Yeah, just thank you for taking the initiative to look at, you know, educational ideas. I appreciate that. And, Mr. Hawk, you know, I mean, you know, the circular thing down at 60 and 20, a lot of negativity. Change is hard.
It is.
Change is never easy. I just want to say that as science is dear to my heart, and so I was going to ask the science question, but she got it.
Yeah.
So we answered that question.
Good, I'm glad.
Thank you for taking the time and really, you know,
No problem.
being open with us about the discussion and your thought process.
Sure.
It's helpful.
And I fully need to apologize for not doing this sooner. I don't want to say that this was a rush decision, but you know, we got to a point where I felt like there was going to be no use to continue talking about, all right, should we look at this, should we look at that, and let's just make the decision and move forward with this. And it was kind of late in the year, and you know, I knew that I had to suffer the wrath of that, and that's completely understandable, and I own that, and I apologize for, and to our kids that are here today, I apologize for making this decision very quickly, but I hope that you guys all know that never am I sitting in my office going, how could I mess up the kids' schedules and ruin their lives? It doesn't happen, all right? I'm really truthfully trying to do something that's the best for all of you guys, And I'm hopeful that as a team, our teachers will come together and rise, as they have in the past, to bring the best that we can for our kids. Okay? But thank you, guys.
Anything else?
Wow, it took a long time.
Yeah.
You wait.
So, that begs the.
Cell phones is a lot easier, trust me.
Well, I guess that's the concern. Will it be quick? Will, you know, how?
I think it can be quick.
Your presentation is.
Quick, it's very quick, honestly. I think, because this was rolled out, right? We have a committee of people looking at this. We have kids, we have adults, and I just want to just tell you where we are with it, if that's okay. Are you okay with that?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, for our cell phone committee, this is up and running. We had our first meeting last week, and we have approximately 34 participants, 16 are students, 12 are parents. Come on, Ethel, there we go. 2 staff members, 3 administrators, 1 Board of Education member. At the last meeting of all of these people, I think there were about 18 people that showed up for the Zoom, which is great. There were a lot of people that had conflicts. As you know, there were a lot of sporting events going on. Our purpose for this is really to find the best way to keep students off of phones during all of the school day hours, from 7:40 to 2:20. General feeling, staff, we have, I would say, 100% agreement that the staff does not want to see cell phones in the school. It's a huge distraction for them. And among this group, I feel like there was an agreement, not necessarily 100% consensus, but they felt that, yeah, we need to do something about this. And some of the parents were very thankful, like, hey, I can't even make this happen at my house, so thank you for doing this at the school. These are some of the reasons that we're looking at this. The addictive nature of the cell phones. There's certainly algorithms, as you guys know, that track what kids are into, and then it just feeds them more of the same stuff. They can't stop, put their phones down. They're also wondering what someone said about them, and they're sitting in classes, even in the classes that have the phones sitting in a little dock at the door or on a wall somewhere. You know, there are kids sitting there going, I gotta get my phone, I think I heard it go off. Who was it? What did they say? I need to respond. Whatever that is, it's just there's a lot of addictive nature to it. Just general interruptions to the school day and learning are huge problems with our cell phones during the day. And the reality is it's kids texting kids when they're not supposed to be, kids having their phones out when they're not supposed to be out, kids going to the bathroom and texting people that are in class. You know, and a lot of parents text their kids during the day, sometimes for very relevant things, sometimes, hey, what are you eating for lunch? Take a picture. You know, and that's not probably the most helpful thing, and so we need to have the parents on board with this as well. Obviously, the use for bullying and other inappropriate behavior, I would say a lot larger than the physical bullying that may go on in our school. Most of the inappropriate things that are going on are on cell phones. Kids treat each other very poorly on cell phones. We have students that send naked pictures on cell phones, and it just goes on from there. There's a lot of bad behavior with the cell phones. Certainly anxiety and depression are linked to cell phones. There's tons of research on this. As students develop through adolescence, behind the screen and on their cell phones, their brains actually develop differently than they did pre-cell phone. And it increases their anxiety and depression. So what we did at our first meeting, we examined a few ideas that have been successful at other schools. Starting off, one of the schools that we looked at collects all the cell phones at the beginning of the day, locks them up in a room or in their office, and then returns them at the end of the day. One of the problems with this is that this is very time-consuming, and then getting the cell phones back to the kids at the end of the day is also very time-consuming. And there are questions about, what if a cell phone gets given back and the screen is cracked? Who did that? Was it cracked when they turned it in? Oh, the school owes me a new phone. And then at our school, we're very blessed to have a lot of programs that meet outside of school, and so as kids need to leave throughout the day for 313 and BOCES and internships and all the things that they leave for, then they have to go find their phone in the middle of the day. It's kind of a train wreck. The one that we were looking at more positively is these lockable pouches that teachers can unlock as needed. Every adult would have the ability to unlock phones whenever they need to be unlocked. This would address issues like, for example, Mr. Haas had that really wonderful presentation earlier in the year about drones. all the drones are operated by cell phones. So the kids use their phones to fly these drones. So in Mr. Haas's class, when they get there, they'll have their pouch. They keep their phones with them in this pouch that they can't open. Mr. Haas will wave his magic wand over in front of it. It's just that they open it instantly. They can pull out their phones, use it for the class appropriately, and when they're done, they put it back, and it's locked. As soon as they close it, it locks automatically. There's no mechanism needed to lock it. They also address medical needs of students. There are students that need diabetic monitoring. Instead of having a lockable phone, they have phone bags or pouches that are just Velcro. So those aren't locked. And we obviously have to monitor that they're still using their phones effectively, but that's helpful for them. There's also no need to collect phones and get them back at the end of the day because the kids have their phones the whole time. Just need to remove it from the pouch at the end of the day and leave. There was concern raised about how we educate students to use these devices better, which is a great point. So one of the parents mentioned, like, hey, you know, I'm kind of for this ban, but they're going to leave high school and then be like, okay, they're going to go to college or a job, and did we teach them anything by just taking their phones away? Great point. So the thought came up to revamp. We have a computer applications course that's a Board of Education requirement that all of our kids take. That was developed over 20 years ago, and when we put it in place, we felt this needed to be there because computers were kind of new and kids needed to have some skills. What we would like to do is look at revamping that to still meet some of those needs for kids that might not have those needs, but kind of break it up maybe into 4 or 5 week mini courses within the semester. And so we could do some of those computer things, develop digital citizenship, self-regulation, communication strategies, de-escalation, addressing legal concerns. Like if you have pornography on your phone and it's your parents' account, they can be liable for those things. If you videotape 2 kids fighting in the hall, that's a problem. You know, all these things can be considered illegal. And so I think training the students in that would be very helpful. And 2 of our parents already went out and researched this and sent me this week 2 curriculums that are available for this, which I think is really cool to look at. Also, reaching out to other schools, research was currently available for a course of this type. I talked to Wellsville, who has a cell phone ban, to their superintendent. He said that he would email me something. He hasn't yet, and that was last week. I still haven't gotten it, but I'm hopeful that he will get that to me soon. Almost done. Logistics, I want to thank Ray for this. He brought up a lot of these questions. How and when are the phones going to be collected or placed in pouches? Will this include smartwatches? I put yes in parentheses because I believe it needs to, because the smartwatches can do all of the things that the cell phone can do and cause the same problems. What are the consequences of bringing and using a second phone? So a kid puts their phone in the pouch. Okay, they pull out their second phone, now they're using that during the day. Is there a consequence for that? What is it? Let's be specific and let's be consistent as to what that's going to be. If we have these pouches are school property. If you damage school property, we already have something in our code of conduct about how to deal with that. Come on. Is there a simple way for parents to communicate with children about schedule changes during the day, bus or parent pickup cancellations, like legit things that parents are communicating with their kids? If they can't get their cell phones, how do they communicate? Lindsay Moon, one of our social studies teachers, came to me and said, hey, my husband's in IT. He said for a very, very minimal cost, you can purchase a domain where we could have parent email addresses assigned to that domain. Parents could then email our students on their school email address to correspond with them, because currently you can't email into our school. You can't access our students from outside, but we could create a domain that allows that, and it would be only open to parents. So I thought that was a pretty neat idea. And obviously all of those need to be solidly addressed before the rollout. We need to be clear what all of the expectations are. Oops, and that's it. Yes?
Just one question. Cell phones are not only in high school, they're in middle school, and Mr. Drollinger, I would bet maybe you even have some elementary students that are carrying phones. So how is this, are we having pouches for middle school? So just what's the flow through?
Right now, Jamie, I spoke with Jamie about this. She said that in her school right now, the kids are keeping them in their lockers, and for the most part, in her opinion, that's working pretty well. I'm not there. I don't know if that's accurate, but I have no reason not to believe her. And she said, I would rather have the high school pilot this for a year and see how it goes before we jump into this. And she's like, She goes, Darren, I know what it's like in the high school. I have kids and whatever, and I see the needs there are very different than the needs in the middle school right now. So let's see how it works for a year, and then maybe we could jump in and try the same thing.
Great.
Yep.
Darren,
Yes, sir.
the lockable pouches, so key lock, miracle lock, what are they?
It's a magnetic lock. So there's just a flap that goes over the top. It's a super strong magnet. So like if you spend, like there used to be stuff you could buy online to break into them. They've updated the pouches since those, so I guess that those don't work anymore. Are there going to be ways where kids could probably figure out how to open them? Eventually, yeah, but not without damaging it. So to me, that's going to be a situation where if the kid's pouch is damaged, they've damaged school property, and they would get the associated consequence with it.
So, thanks for that. The teacher would have some neg, how,
Yeah, it's a little square thing about this big, and you just pass the phone over it, and it unlocks it. They currently use these pouches at venues where you have thousands of people for concerts. A lot of concerts don't allow cell phones anymore. So when you go into the concert, everybody gets a pouch. So you might have 40,000 people with a pouch, and then at the end, as they walk by, they just walk by the magnet, it opens it up, and they pull their phone out and they throw it in a big container.
I'm behind the times. Wow.
Yep.
I've got not necessarily a question, just a comment. The vast majority of conversations I've had with parents about this, they're fully supportive, with the exception of, I need to get a hold of my kid and it's an emergency.
Yep.
And the change thing here is scary.
Yeah.
I went to school and you had to call the school.
Yeah, and we're not looking for hundreds of phone calls in the office, but, you know, in an emergency, you know, hopefully if we can get this email thing up and running, that would be great. But if not, we all have, there are phones in the offices, and we can connect to, every single room has a phone in it as well.
Two questions.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, how do all of the students' pouches get unlocked?
Like right by the door, the teacher will either stand there, or they will put it, they can even have them installed. Some schools have them like physically on, like screwed into like a countertop, and you just walk by it and unlock it. It's literally, if this is your pouch, you go like this and it's unlocked.
Okay. And also, will all the pouches be exactly the same, or will there be a way to identify that yours is your pouch? Because if they all look the same, what if two phones get swapped at the end of the day?
Right. The idea is that they would all be numbered, and each student would be assigned a numerical pouch so that they're responsible for that pouch, and if that pouch is damaged, it's their responsibility. And then the pouch will just be put back into their first period classes for the next day, and they'd be there for you, and then you just put your phone in it and lock it.
So when you leave, you just take your pouch to your first period class?
Schools do different things, and that's something, part of those logistics we were talking about. Some schools just have them leave them in their last period class, and then it's someone's job to go through and just get them back to their first period class. Some schools have the kids just keep the pouch at the end of the day and bring it back the next day. The problems with that, obviously, if the kid doesn't bring their pouch back, it becomes a problem. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, sorry that took so long. I always tend to take a long time for stuff. But thank you all.
So next we have our financials treasurer's report, and with our budget status report, investment report, revenue report, and I guess we've got to do them.
We're going to need a motion for the treasurer's report.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Forbes.
So this just updates dashboard through the end of April, and you'll have May next meeting, so we caught up, back up after the schedule of meetings in May. Essentially, I've gone through and updated what I could update for projected expenditures and actual expenditures, same on the revenue side. Expenditures, we had a few more things happen that I had to add in, so the amount we're carrying there is reduced to $459,000 of anticipated surplus. But the good news is we had some offsets on the revenue side, so we're still tracking in that 750-ish, 775 range, which is below what we budgeted, as we talked about. And we anticipated that we'd have a little dip this year and then hopefully level out or increase next year. So I think all that is tracking about the same. Interest revenue on the investment report, through the end of April, we're $216,000. Rates continue to hold in the 5.25 range, so we should be, by the end of June, we should be up around 235, 240,000, somewhere there. which is good. But it was that way years ago, and this will help out with some of the other things that we're doing.
Any questions from the board? So we'll be using up about 250,000 of our reserves this year. It's not a million, but okay. No questions? Mr. Forbes, I can't thank you enough for doing the dashboard, and that I think that it helps everyone to understand it, distill it out, and see quickly where we're at. If I could have a motion to bring the treasurer's report to the table, please. Mr. Hawk, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. Mr. Forbes, anything there?
Nope, I think good there.
Any questions from the board? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the award for bid on trash removal for the 2024-25 school year to Casella at a cost of $44,140. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So moved.
Ms. Paul Ford, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Hahn. Any questions on that? Any clarification, questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
Does this include any update or inclusion around recycling requests and making sure that we are covering some of the bases there, or is that going to be kind of a separate?
This is specifically the trash removal, not recycling.
Okay, so this vendor would not cover any of the recycling?
Not with this bid, we would have to go back and see what's available. It tends to vary. We got a paper recycling in the back. In moments, it's good, and in moments it's not. We had glass for a while, and then there was nobody taking glass off it.
So with the paper recycling, we are trying to kind of retool right now and hopefully get this straightened out. So as we come into next year, we sort of have some of the kinks out of it. You know, there are blue bins that are paper only, but sometimes other things end up in there, and that can be problematic. You know, we're looking at different student groups that could be used to collect and then deliver the paper, and Jamie's been working on that, and I've been working on that. There's a class in particular at Wheelock that started doing it, named Pierce's class. We appreciate that. Jeff Truinsky is still involved at the high school and continues to be a champion for that cause, but we're trying to bring everybody back to the basics of that, also making sure our custodians are not throwing out bins that are meant to stay. So we're kind of in that process of trying to remind everybody and end the school year strong, and then be ready to go for September.
I appreciate that clarification.
Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the award bid for gasoline diesel fuel for the 2024-25 school year. Noco Energy for diesel at $2.85 a gallon, and TPS for gasoline at $2.66.5 per gallon. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Ms. Gallo, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Johnston. Any questions on that?
Just another annual report. The Casella is a little bit higher, a few $100. This one is relatively flat. John, is it?
Are we still sharing with Fredonia, the village of Fredonia? And the
Yes, good question. For
distribution?
our district vehicles, we're doing the sharing through the municipal bid with the village of Fredonia. This will be any gasoline for transportation. They have a tank on site, and there's very little use of that.
Okay, so this would be for buses?
Yeah.
Okay, so just for clarification, we pay for the fuel for the buses along, this is an additional cost to the cost of busing.
Correct.
Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We have the 24-25 purchase orders that are being released. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor for clarification.
So moved.
Mr. Marshall, in his second.
Second.
Ms. Coe, you can just get clarification on that.
Yeah, this helps us start moving forward for next year. I know we still have some time and some big events coming up, but we're already have one eye on the start of the new school year as of July 1. So this helps us move forward, begin to get some of those purchase orders moving. And typically, we start to get deliveries right at the beginning of the summer. There's a whole other series of events that happens in the building. We're taking the materials and getting them to rooms and getting them settled if they involve technology. So this is really helpful to begin that process. Anything else, Mr. Forbes, that we don't think that?
You got it.
Any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the appointment of Andrea Marsh to a probationary position of assistant principal starting July 1st, 2024. Could I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Ms. Coe, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Paul Fortnum. Mr. Ziliaks.
Yeah, so Andrea's here tonight. Thanks for being here, Andrea. It's a pleasure, and we'll give you a chance to share a few thoughts in a minute. But as you know, we run a set interview process at the building level, which involves a number of people from a number of areas, support staff, as well as a variety of faculty, headed by our principal. And then those candidates come to district office. And again, in this case, with the skill set that Andrea brings to the table and some of the things that we're looking at through our long-term planning and just general needs in the district, there's a real connection there between things that she's done in the past and kind of areas that we're headed. She's a Fredonia State grad, in fact was the Student Teacher of the Year back in the day. Also went to Edinburgh for her master's, also did some leadership work at the U of R, which I did as well, so that's nice. She's a local resident, not too far down the road, with students in Casadega. At Jamestown, she was an elementary principal, primarily 4th grade, went into an instructional coach role where she assisted other teachers with their instruction and strategies that would be useful to them in the classroom, and then ended up as an assistant principal at Washington over the last couple of years. We're excited about her background in literacy and reading. First and foremost, she's also done a lot of work with restorative practices, which we have some room to grow. And she most lately has really got a peer mediation program off the ground and has really been successful. So we're excited about all that, and we are glad to have you here tonight.
Yeah.
Welcome to Andrea, and any thoughts, comments that you'd like to make at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It was a wonderful process. I know Jamie's not here, but she's been wonderful through the interview process, and her and I have been in touch. We're really excited to start working together. I had more connections with Fredonia than I thought I did. So through the interview process, I learned that some people that I had worked with in the past are here, and I didn't know that. So I'm really excited to get started, and yep, I have a lot to offer with literacy, and reading and ELA curriculum is something that I'm really passionate about. I'm excited to bring all those skills here. And I've been in a middle school for 4 years. Never thought that I would leave the elementary building, but I really love the middle school world and all of the positive things that we have a lot of ways to influence kids at the middle level. And a lot of challenges that we have to work through when they're in middle school, so I'm excited to get started.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Is it time to clap?
I
gotta go first. Okay.
No, I will say, we were all impressed in the interview process. I think you're bringing a lot of the great skills we're looking for, success skills. We're looking for a great team there in the middle school, and yeah, welcome aboard. So with that, all those in favor of the approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations. Next, we have the approval of the appointment of Dan Condra to a probationary position of elementary special education starting July 1st. If I could have a motion on that, please. Ms. Willow, in a second.
Second.
Mr. Marshall. Sorry. Mr. Zilians.
Yeah, we're excited to have Dan as well, again at the elementary level. Originally from Angola, now living in Ripley. And Dan is really interesting that he's been in the classroom in a variety of roles, and most recently as a teaching assistant. So that means he's had a unique perspective in the classroom, and then was motivated to go back and get his teaching degree based on that experience, and really found that this was a passion and he loved, and really enjoys working with young people, and wanted to sort of take that up to the next notch of actually being the classroom teacher. Again, ran a typical interview process, and Mr. Jones, or anything you wanted to share about Dan that you think would be relevant?
He stood out in his lesson. He's going to be teaching in a new 611 classroom with some of our most challenging students, both academically and behaviorally. And he did a great job. He understands that it's important to build relationships with kids first, and in his demo lesson he did that. The kids loved him, and I think that he's going to be a teacher that kids will connect very quickly to, and that will be make him very successful.
Any questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of appointment of Catherine Brinston to a probationary position of elementary teacher starting July 1st. I'm going to have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So moved.
Ms. Khan, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Pagolo.
Yeah, Katie is also here tonight. Good to see Katie. We're excited to have her on board. Again, participated in our typical interview process. Recent graduate from John Carroll University over near Cleveland there. So good stuff. Major in early childhood and a minor in leadership development. She is a Erie County resident. She also has participated in the Sabres Learn to Play program and is the head coach of the Hamburg Hawks, which I'm assuming is a youth hockey team. So that's exciting, and gives her a little bit, again, another lens in which she's working with young people, and another way in which she's connecting, and also learning about how do you instruct, and how do you, teach in a variety of different settings, which, is good to see. Mr. Jones, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, this was a highly competitive interview process. We had more applicants for this position than I've had in a long time. So it started with her being tasked to make a 2-minute video. Her video stood out amongst all the other candidates that we had. And then our interview was pretty thorough. We had a good representation. And then in her lesson, she did a great job as well. She was in a 3rd grade classroom, connected with the kids, really showed us that she can command a classroom. And for a first-year teacher, we were all very impressed. So I'm looking forward to a long career with working alongside Katie. So we're going to put you on the spot here. Do you want to say anything?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Bernson. I'm super excited and honored for this opportunity. I'm really excited to start my teaching career at Fredonia. I'm already brainstorming and getting ready for the upcoming year, so I'm super excited, really ready. I mean, the interview process was super exciting for me, and I felt super supported throughout the whole time, so thank you to everyone involved in that. And I'm really excited to start here and be a positive influence on the elementary community in Fredonia.
Great. Any questions from the board? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Welcome and congratulations.
Katie, we know that you had to leave a little bit, at least by 8, so feel free to
Glad to get you out
step
early.
out as you
So we've, the board has reserved this time to hear from the public again. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on any issue? Okay. Mr. Zilians.
Yeah, fairly briefly. We continue with our long-term planning process. We have another meeting tomorrow night. At the next meeting in July, and I know we're still working on a date for that, we can talk about that in a minute. We'll probably really have some information to share, at least about the topics that we've continued to narrow down to as a group, and really, and I think I mentioned last time, the focus is really on teaching and learning and the supports that we have for students. So that's going to be exciting to see that plan come together. We're probably not quite at the end of the year. This will probably flow into July, but we should have a really good frame here over the next month to work from as we move forward. As the board begins to think about goals for itself or for the district, I think that plan will be helpful in framing some of those conversations as well. Also, since it was mentioned, I don't know if you've noticed, but our governor is considering some legislation that would make it mandatory for districts to have a non-voting student representative. So we're a little ahead of the curve there. And again, we really appreciate Lacey being our first representative and going with the flow a little bit, and also sharing your thoughts. She has been outstanding on our long-term planning group and really did a nice job putting together some information and color coding and pie charts and the whole thing. So she's done an awesome job with that, and we appreciate her input. We also have a few housekeeping items. I think we're set on July 1 as the reorg date. I think that seems to be solidified. However, we do have a few conflicts with our meeting at the end of this month, at least for Mr. Aldrich.
June 18th.
The 18th wasn't looking good. We suggested the 25th. I think that's problematic for Mr. Marshall. So is there a date here that we might be able to agree on and solidify? And if we can't do that right now, I would hope that we could do that by following up with some communications.
Is there something that we need full board representation, not to discount Mr. Marshall, but, you know, just, if we have 6 out of the 7, is that?
I think that my concern was that this is being the last meeting of the year. I didn't want to just leave any board member out if they had something, especially because I think that we need to talk about the successes and what's happened through our school district for the past 12 months. And I don't want to leave anyone out of that whole process. So,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Could the Monday or Wednesday of the 18th be an option? I know it's not a Tuesday.
17th?
Monday the 17th. Tuesday, but if everybody can make it. So.
To my knowledge, that would work.
Mondays are bad for me as well.
Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday's Juneteenth.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the drawing board. Let's try.
Do I hear Thursday anyway? Yeah, what's wrong with Thursday?
Are you okay with Thursday then?
Yeah.
Thursday it is. Okay.
As far as I know.
That's the 27th?
Oh, I thought we were in the 20th. Can we do it?
The 27th.
You're right, I'm sorry, you're right.
It could be the 20th.
It would be the 20th.
If we want to keep it in that same week, that
Yeah.
Thursday would be the 20th. I mean, can we just have a chance to check at home and?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
If you guys want, I can just send out a real quick Google survey tomorrow, just a quick yes or no answer, and then we'll.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
And then the reorg on July 1st.
Yeah,
Yes.
the 20th would make more sense, and because otherwise that's 4 days apart. Yeah.
Well,
We could do the 27th and the 1st.
yeah, and then we've got the 30th of graduation, and then the 1st for the reorg, yes.
So we're looking for the 20th. Okay.
So long as I make it. Yes.
You look healthy.
So lastly, in the housekeeping, at one point, the 18th was a viable option for the next BOE workshop with Young and Wright. However, that's not going to work. The other date that was out there was the 12th. And and I didn't know if that was agreeable. They'd be looking at 4 to 5:30. I think the only other thing happening that night, I believe there's a middle school concert that evening, and I wasn't
That is the
sure.
BOCES graduation, if that makes a difference to anyone that sees
June 11th.
graduation from 5 to 6. The 12th, or the 12th, excuse me, I'm sorry, that's
For
the 11th.
BOCES graduation? BOCES graduation is the 11th.
The 11th, you're
Yep.
right.
Is it sports awards night, is that the 12th?
No.
Is that scheduled?
Yep, sports awards the 18th.
Can we do a Zoom on that too?
You want to do?
What else can I
So
do?
I can check.
I'd like to have a copy of your schedule.
So if we do the Thursday, the 20th, that's just out. There's no chance of doubling up and having young and right on the 20th.
We could look at, those were the 2 dates that they had suggested. I could look at the
I mean, I would
20th.
prefer that.
Yes.
Maybe they were thinking we wanted a Tuesday, possibly?
Initially, they were, and then we kind of started to veer into, because the,
Okay, so hold on.
yeah, I could check with them, and see if that's possible.
I appreciate everyone's flexibility.
The other thing that will be coming to you in the update this week is we typically, around this time of year, set a rate for the tuition. Last year, we used the tax rate. So this year, that would be at 1.7, maybe round to 5, up to 2. I'll get you some information on that. John had sent some preliminary things, but I missed it in this week's update. So just be thinking about that, and perhaps we can be ready to go for a resolution at our next meeting, so that's wrapped up for families who are considering what their plans are for next school year.
So to the tuition rate, our increase was 1.71% to our tax levy, but our actual increase was 5.8.
Correct.
So, I mean, we should look at that seriously as to the cost of doing business as a whole, as opposed to just what has been to the taxpayer.
That's an idea. Thank you, Mr. Hall.
That's all I have. Thanks.
In our next regular Board of Education meeting, possibly the 20th, TBD. Okay, 6 o'clock here.
Not decided.
TBD?
TBD.
TBD. Yeah. Okay, hurry up and put the pen down, Mr. Johnson. Any comments? Any comments for tonight? No comments. Mr. Nicole?
Nothing.
Nothing? Mr. Hawk?
Just awesome to see the spectator once again doing so well.
Yeah. Mr. Marshall?
Ditto to that, and congrats to all the wonderful success for our athletic teams for the spring.
Ms. Hine?
Excited about Andrea Marsh. Glad to hear that we're getting back on track regarding recycling. I think it's important as a board that we support recycling in our district. And I just also want to say that Ray Dye, I believe to be a once-in-a-generation student and person who lives in our school district, and our community. And I hope you always feel respected and supported by adults in our schools, in our district, and throughout Fredonia, because you are special. So thank you, Ray.
That's awesome.
Mr. Paskey?
I don't think I want to talk much anymore, but there's a lot of cool stuff scheduled. We just did the senior class trip. Algebra Regents, the new one was today, so we're excited. It seemed to have gone very well with our kids, and our students are starting to take their senior photos for next year's class already, and everybody's invited to graduation. I sent out an email to all of our staff, K to 12, talking about the importance of what we invest in our kids, that the culmination piece of it is as important to be there to support them. So I'm hoping for a huge turnout, and I hope that all of our board members can make it if possible. And I totally get that there are conflicts, but hopeful for a really big turnout this year for graduation. Yay, seniors, almost done. And so you know, any of us can sign your stuff. It doesn't just have to be me.
Hey, Lacey, sign it?
Yeah.
Mr. Drowninger.
Not much, it's just a busy time of year with field trips and things like that. We have a concert Wednesday, a concert Friday.
Wait, hold up, guys, hold up.
I really don't have a lot to say. I'm tired.
You're tired too?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Fun time of year.
Okay.
It is.
So with that, we need a motion to enter into executive session.
With reservations, so moved.
Second if we must.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. We are in executive session at 8:02. Thank you, everyone. Now you can get up and leave.
What you do at school?
Oh, okay.